Minions of the Zoo is a lovable ragtag group of misfits that sprang up initially as a fan group to Ranting Monkey, Scribe-Light, Some Dumb American, and their joint Lords of the Night livestream show. Late-night discussions in Discord quickly evolved into streams of their own, with each member bringing something new and different to the table for discussion. Led by the incomparable Rejekt PPC and the one-ton hammer, the group rotates hosts known as Zookeepers.
Hello everybody and welcome to Minions of the Zoo. I'm your host for this evening, One-Ton Hammer.
I will be your zookeeper tonight, Rejekt.
Alright, and welcome to the zoo. I am TheLuckyPoptart.
Inquisitor. Sanguine.
Skep, Tock.
I'm Prospero.
And I'm Delahazed.
Regular streamers, they're known as minions, and special guests are known as traveling exhibits. They're on a nightly basis, so that each show has something unique and fresh for our audience. Minions of the Zoo currently streams at 10:30 Central Standard, 11:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Let's be xenophobic, it's really in this year. Let's find a nasty, slimy, ugly alien to fear. There's no more cutesy stories about E.T. phoning home. Let's learn to love our neighbors like the Christians learned in Rome. We know we ought to hate them, they're different, you see. We've seen they're mean and ugly on movies and TV. The folks that ought to know have told us how it's got to be. The gospel truth is found in scenes from Alien and V. Let's wipe out any life form that seems to be a threat. We'll serve them up a genocide they never will forget. 'Cause if we miss a couple, they'll breed a couple more. And soon we'll all be hating twice as many as before. You see, aliens can never be as good as humankind. A more delightful race than us you'll never ever find. So step aside, you star slime, we're ready for your worst. We know you want to beat us, enslave us and defeat us, oppress us and browbeat us unless we get you first.
Gun game, and there's a light gun game. It's kind of light gun game, but it's a quick draw game. And
by the way, we're live.
Oh shit!
Hello everyone, welcome to the zoo. I'm your zookeeper for Night Inquisitor. Minion joining me so far is Adam.
Hi.
And we should have Eeyore here in a second, hopefully, if he hasn't fallen asleep. And traveling exhibit JenTMaxi.
Hello.
Hello. So you want to continue on what you were saying there, Adam? About GameWorks?
Well, yeah. Well, oh shit. Okay. Well, where did it cut in?
You just got into talking about the light gun.
I didn't proclaim a location, did I?
No.
Okay. So GameWorks. We gotta go to GameWorks, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And okay. So. Damn it! It is because it's like a spur type of the moment. This classic, I think it was Retro Gaming Classics or Classic. Forgive me. I'll figure it out and I'll do you good. But either way, he posted on Twitter. I like to follow him because he goes, "What's your favorite light gun game? Like arcade light gun game?"
Mm-hmm.
And he posted Lethal Enforcers.
Everybody is a good choice.
Oh, Lethal Enforcers. Hey, you're good when they bring up your arcade light guns in front of Congress.
Yeah.
But he posted Lethal Enforcers, and everybody was posting good qualifications like point blank and time Time Strikers, Time Stalkers, Time. There was a
Time Crisis, or no?
Time Crisis. Yes,
Was
the
it Time
one with the
Crisis?
pedal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but the one that always gets me, and hey, my favorite top down is Lethal Enforcers 2,
Mhm.
Gunfighters.
Oh yeah, the
But
Wild West one. Fuck yeah.
yes, sir. Um, but there was this one at the GameWorks that's by us, sir.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it's not so much like a light gun game, but it's a quick draw game where it's a distance and then they have targets, and like some of them are target like a flat board with a the target bit.
Like a shooting
And
gallery.
yeah, and then they did have like cups. I think they had cups, with that they would break if you shot them. But the idea was you kept the gun in the holster, and then it gives you a timer, and it goes, okay, ready, 1, 2, 3, but, and then you gotta go, and see how many targets you can hit, and holy shit, I love that. that I as much as I love light gun games, they are fun as hell.
Mhm.
But the quick draw is, whew, ah, yeah, yes sir. I'm the Huckleberry.
I remember one of the ones that I played so much of because it was in several movie theaters that my friends and I would go to, and then it was also at places like my dad and I would go to whenever I would go down to Ohio. Was the police training one, where the whole premise behind it was that it was like various different stages for practicing police maneuvers and accuracy when it comes to drawing your gun and shooting. That was really fun. I do remember having a lot of fun with that light gun game.
Do you know who made it, or?
I don't. I could look it up here. Let me see.
See, only because like I'd like to, I'd like to play them all. Like I really interested in the like the narrowed focused type of games, like shooting games. You can either have the like the machine guns that were all you had to do was just pull the trigger and just spread it around, like Terminator, or
I was gonna say Revolution X.
Yeah, that's the one with Aerosmith. Yeah. Or even but that's the thing, because I was trying to figure out what the name of this game was, and so I looked at GameWorks list of games they had, and I really like. I saw the Jurassic Park where you're in a enclosed like Jeep thing, and you gotta shoot. And then like there's a Ghostbusters one too, and I'm like, holy shit, dude, we gotta go to fucking GameWorks, man.
It's been a long time since I've been to GameWorks. I remember the last time I was there, I played a shit ton of Street Fighter 4. And I was dominating there. So
I just hope they still have, and the one that's by us, I hope they still have the Tatsunoko versus Capcom, because that's the Japanese one, and they have the one unique character that's only in the Japanese one. I don't remember his name, but
okay, so I look it up. It's just called Police Trainer. And yep. And I don't know who made it. Gotta find
I will say though, 100% would love to play some Virtual Cop, because Sega Arcade AM2s, 100%. I would spend all day playing that. Yes, sir.
Let's see here. It doesn't even say on the Wikipedia. Oh, there it is. P&P Marketing are the people that made Police Trainer. It's a 1996 made game.
So it was probably like a small time.
Yeah.
Small time.
Extremely small time. Yeah. But I'll say, I haven't done this in a while with you here. Let's let's do something here. Let's first of all, I gotta bring that up so it's not gonna constantly show you talking and not automatically switching over. There we go. Let's check Craigslist.
All right.
Let's look up some arcade cabinets.
Yep. Craigslist
Cabinetos.
Chicago. Craigslist Chicago. Arcade.
Holy shit! You know what? Actually, somebody posted on Twitter that they made a Rampage based on the movie.
Oh, really?
Holy shit! Now that's fucking crazy, dude. I can't wait for like a live action looking Gauntlet.
Ooh. I'm gonna have to get this one here. 27-inch arcade game monitor. I need to replace the monitor in my Marvel Superheroes fighting game. Let's see here. See, I hate this shit, man. When they have the multicades. Here's one. It's a Burger Time machine with a multicade inside. Oh, here we go. Lethal Enforcers in Schaumburg for $5,000, though.
God, dude, $5 grand?
Yup. Let's see here. There's way too many multicades. I hate that shit.
I mean, I would give a little bit of leeway in terms of the pricing if it was like something like a trackball, because early arcade trackballs, the mechanics that worked it, they don't really stand the test of time. So it's it's one of those things where it's like you're lucky if you find one that works, and then you're lucky if you find one that you can repair. It's
well, you can repair them fairly easy. That's actually one of the components that's like designed to be repaired really well. Trackballs in particular. Also, the market, especially around here, considering we have Incredible Technologies as a local Chicago brand, the parts for a trackball are dirt cheap. Because they make golden tea.
Golden tea, yes. And that's because we have. Well, I'm speaking outside of Chicago because Midway kind of that's why I'm still trying to I'm pissed that it's like, dude, I'm living in the land of golden tea, but I can't find a nice trackball cabinet of Food Fight.
Well,
the golden fucking Midas.
Wait, you wouldn't go with Centipede? Centipede is the big one that uses trackball.
Hell no. As much fun as Centipede is, Food Fight is kind of like it's one of those games that just it hits home for me. So I love my Food Fight, and to get a trackball Food Fight, yeah, yes. But yeah, everywhere I've looked, it's always been pricey.
It sucks.
Too pricey.
I went and just looked it up. There's almost no regular machines around. They're all multicades. That sucks.
Yep.
Fuck. Maybe the sort of thing you have to look on eBay to go and get if you want any specific machine.
I mean, multicades aren't bad, like if you're just trying to build a small little.
In my opinion, just make your own at that point. Don't use a cabinet. Build your own cabinet.
Well, hold on. I mean, it's already built. It's one of those things where it's like a vegan saying, "Hey, don't eat that meat." It's like, dude, the meat's already done.
Well, no. See, that's the thing, is that a multicade, you have to gut the whole thing. and put in your own infrastructure in it. So it's really not, the meat's already made. I mean, you have to gut everything and start over with the whole whole thing from scratch. About the only thing that's staying from the original cabinet is the monitor and the marquee and the art on the cabinet. But everything else you have to do yourself.
Yeah, but is it something that where if I click buy, that they're gonna do that to a whole cabinet, or is it they've already done it to a cabinet, and I'm just clicking buy to buy the cabinet?
It's the sort of thing you're clicking buy and you're buying the whole cabinet. It's already all made.
Well, if it's already done.
Well, by the same token, in my opinion, that's a waste of the original cabinet. You know what I mean? Because you can maim.
You want to encourage them. You know?
Yeah.
I agree with that. I mean, hey, and that's why I'm looking at, the Aloof fighter with a trackball that actually works. And especially the other one is Popeye with the Nintendo cabs, because the early Nintendo cabs, you don't find a lot of like the bezels and the marquees that are fully functioning, and that's
or in good condition.
Well, yeah. So that's why, like, it's more of a prize in my eyes, like, to see a nice cab, even if I had to do some repairs to it. But if they're selling a multi cab, I mean, I wouldn't mind buying one just to have, so I could place some Marvelous Capcom or something like that.
Well, again, that's the major problem with multi-cabs. It's like the ones that always build themselves 60 in 1. They're going to be things like arcade classics, Pac-Man, Galaga, shit like that. There's not going to be Marvel vs. Capcom in it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They're going to be old Atari games. They're not going to. Yeah, they're not going to be.
Or even like Pac-Man, and then like Pac-Man, like a different variation of it, and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nah.
Yeah. So that's really the problem. I don't like multicades for that facet. If I wanted a MAME machine, I can build a MAME machine. That's not hard.
So what do you think about those arcade, like, where it's the 2 arcade cabinet sticks, and then you just hook it up to your TV with USB and HDMI. Wow. HDMI. That's it.
Yeah, you mean the like the ones that's like a pedestal and stuff.
Yeah.
Those are just straight up MAME machines. And what I mean by MAME machine is it's a PC that's running an emulation software. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's like a Raspberry Pi or something like that.
Not really Raspberry Pi, but it's kind of close. It's running an emulation software called MAME, MAME, and that's essentially just an arcade emulator. But yeah, I don't know, man. I always feel I would feel a little dirty buying like a Burger Time that didn't have just Burger Time in it,
Honestly, part of me kind of looks at it like it would be beneficial if the Burger Time cabinet was authentic, but the innards wasn't, and then just kind of go from there. Like, honestly, like if again, going with Food Fight, I'm sure everybody hates hearing me about it, but
hey man, no one's gonna shame you for the games you like.
If I found an authentic Food Fight cab, but the innards were not authentic, I would get the cab, and then look up to see if I can find the innards, because it's a fucking, it's like a computer, you got your wooden cabinet, but then you have your PC board on the inside, and then it attaches to the CRT.
That's again the problem, is that it's not that way. the multi-cabs, when they gut it, the only original bits are the wood that makes up the cabinet, the monitor that is the display piece, and that's it. All of the stuff, like for the board, the PCB, or any of that stuff, the actual internals, all of that is gutted. All of it. And it's just running an emulation computer inside. Like, it's not running any sort of software or firmware or hardware that is an actual arcade cabinet at that point.
Well, yeah, I would just take the outside of it. I mean, if they happen to find an authentic food fight cabinet, I'd buy it for the cabinet itself, and to just piece it together. It's one of those things where it's like, oh geez, how could I don't know how else to it's building it together based on what authentic parts I can find. And if I run across a multicade, I'm not saying all multicades, because I don't trust them either way. They all seem shisty, like they all seem.
They're not necessarily shisty. It's the fact that they're selling a business, refurbing a machine into something that a consumer would want rather than a business. Because a business wants to rent the machine, put the machine there, and then reap the rewards of all the coins that are dropping. If someone wants to take an arcade machine and put it in their home, 9 times out of 10, people are sitting there saying, well, I don't want to spend $1,200 on an arcade cabinet that only plays one game. I want it to play 12 games, 20 games, 30 games. And I think that that's a disservice to the history and memory of the game of the original cabinet, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I say it's a shady practice if they gutted an original Donkey Kong cabinet and inserted a multicade into it and then sold it as the multicade, because the original Donkey Kong cabinet is valuable. You could still repair the motherboard, you can still repair the CRT, you can get everything working again. Just look at TNT Amusements. These guys, they still fix up and work out arcade machines all the time. But the see, I think we're looking at it differently, because I'm looking at it like, when I'm hearing multi arcades, I'm thinking of those generic type of machines, and it's like, yeah, dude, nobody wants those, But if I got like an original Gauntlet machine, and then somebody gutted it and then put in a multicade, but it's still the Gauntlet cab, and if you know the 4-player Gauntlet cab, it's really close together. It's unique. That's a disservice on the original cab. I would say 100%. That's why I don't like those multi cabs, but I would definitely buy one if they had gutted it, and just take all that nonsense out and try and rebuild an original Gauntlet cab out of that.
See, I could get behind that, like restoration of an original cabinet after a multicade. Yeah, I could see that being an actual business. The real major problem I've got with multicades, again, is just the fact that they're taking an actual arcade cabinet and then making one of those shitty knockoff plug and play. We've got 10,000 games, and they're all games you've never heard of, and they're all garbage plug and play consoles. I I don't want to see video game history go down that route just for a quick buck, because people are sitting there saying, well, if I'm buying an arcade cabinet, I want to be able to play, 30 games.
Yeah, and as fun as Mappy is, there's not a lot of people clamoring to pump coins into that machine.
Not anymore.
Well, yeah. And not only that, but just, I don't know, multicades is just kind of like, it just kind of seems like one of those things where it's like, yeah, hey, here's an arcade. It's, it's something to look at.
And it's funny too. I don't want to sound like a hypocrite at all with all of this. For all of those who don't know, I actually do have a multicade. But in my defense, even with all the stuff I've been saying, even with all the stuff I have been saying here, it was given to me by a friend for free because he wanted me to take care of it, which, if you guys don't know me, for all of my retro video game stuff, I baby the shit out of everything I own. But he wanted me to take care of it because, unfortunately, his brother who owned it died.
Aw.
So, that's why I own that multicade. And again, I baby the shit out of it, too.
Damn it. I wanted to say it belongs in a museum, but that last part kind of... Jay?
Well, no, the multicade too. It's not one of those ones that we've been talking about. One of the ones where they take an original arcade machine, they gut it, and they put a whole bunch of new firmware and stuff like that to be able to play multiple games. No, this is actually because I'm not sure how many people know this, but in the Chicagoland area, we actually have the U.S. headquarters of Konami. They're in Wheeling, I want to say. It's like right on the other side of Deerfield. Like right on the other side of Lake Cook Road from Deerfield. Yeah, there's a big old Konami building and everything. It's really cool. But the multicade that I've got is the Konami multicade. Comes from Konami with a whole bunch of Konami games.
We used to build arcade machines out here in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm. Still do. Midway is still here in Chicago. Bally's was also acquired by Midway. And then shit. We still have Incredible Technologies that actually does manufacture their game consoles here. Yeah, we still have a lot of arcade manufacturers here in the Chicagoland area. And Incredible Technologies are out in Vernon Hills. Yeah. I actually know someone who works there.
I wonder if it was the connection, like the central port for the train stations, that made it such a...
Yeah, I could see that.
There's still a lot of pinball machines being made out here.
Uh-huh.
So it's one of those, it's like...
There's a major industry about repairing pinballs out here.
Well, yeah, that too.
Because pinballs are one of those machines that does need regular maintenance and upkeep.
Yep.
So
and
it's unfortunate because people really like their pinball. And if you wanted to buy a pinball, the only recommendation I would have is don't. They are a nightmare to upkeep. Anyway, sorry about that, Adam.
Well, I was gonna say the game you stated earlier, Golden Tee.
Uh-huh.
That is also another game that is really big and also requires maintenance. You know.
Well, it's funny too because like they didn't have any listings on Craigslist, but I'm sure you can go around to like any personal ads and you will find 1,000,000,007 people trying to sell off their Golden Tees because
probably
every bar bought one and every bar continues to buy one and then what do they do with the old one? They sell it into the private sector. They don't care. So yeah, the market over here, especially in this area, is just glutted with people selling fucking golden tea. So much golden tea everywhere.
And going right back to what I was talking about earlier. Holy shit! Yeah, I forgot that there was a Rampage game movie.
Oh, yeah.
And then they have the movie arcade. You know, kind of like the Street Fighter arcade, based off the movie.
God.
But the Rampage game, made for Midway, and there's a bunch of Midwestern cities in
Wait a
it.
second.
You know, so
Now I'm trying to think about it. I think the Street Fighter the game, the Street Fighter the movie the game was actually made by Incredible Technologies. I think. Let me check.
get out of here. Does that mean Kylie Minogue was in my? Really?
Let's see here.
Oh yeah.
Yep, it was made by Incredible Technologies. So you have us to blame for that. You have Chicagoans to blame for the Street Fighter the movie the game.
Sorry, not sorry. Honestly, I kind of liked the game. It was kind of fun.
No, it was terrible. It was an awful game.
I remember playing it at the there was a movie theater close by me that was like a really small local movie theater that had movies for $1.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the arcades, aside from Samurai Showdown,
Oh fuck yeah.
was Street Fighter the movie. And this movie theater was where I saw like Wayne's World and Pee-wee's Big Top, whatever, the one where he was in the circus.
Okay, yeah, I think it's Pee-wee's Big Top.
Yeah. That's how long ago it was. Holy shit.
Yeah. Well, hell, the Street Fighter the movie the game was made in '95, and you know what though, I'll give Incredible Technologies a lot of slack on this, right? They may have made that shitty, awful, horrible game, but do you know how many people did the art and the programming for it? One apiece.
Oh.
There was only one person that did the programming, one person that did the art. So, yeah, I'll give him some slack for that.
So, do you think that they did Mortal Kombat out here?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But that was Midway, and they still do. NetherRealm is based out of Chicago. I don't even know where their headquarters is, like specifically though. Let's see here.
I think I'm gonna have to reformat my resume.
It's on Bradley. It's on Bradley Place in downtown. Is where NetherRealm Studios is located.
Oh, in the city. Yeah, never mind.
It might have been cool to work with them to do the Injustice games. That would have been fun. The Injustice games are so good. So good. As a longtime comic book fan, I can't stress enough that's one of the coolest additions that DC could have done.
Yo, yeah, both Injustice 1, 2 were pretty good.
And the comics that came with them too were awesome.
Oh yeah. I still gotta get the DLC for Injustice 2 because they started putting memes of Michelangelo going, yeah, I could be gaming right now, and it's like, dude, shit, I forgot that.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Reddit.
I was like, damn it, I gotta get that shit.
I saw a video on YouTube because of my recommends the other day. It was Batman gives the ultimate response in Injustice, and it's like a whole bunch of people doing their intros, and Batman comes up and just goes, "I'm Batman." It's like every time.
Well, I mean, that is the ultimate response. Isn't it?
Yeah, because he fucking is Batman, and what are you gonna say?
Who?
Hi.
Hi.
So, I mean, I was trying to formulate a way to to craft an introduction, but I mean, I guess this works, right? You know, goofy stumbling. How you doing, Jenna? JenTMaxi.
I'm good. I'm great. How about yourself?
So
I don't know a lot about pinball, so I was like, I'll let you guys go.
You do know she's been here the whole time, right?
Well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I know. We kind of dominated the conversation.
It's fun. Talk about stuff that you guys know about, and I was like, well, I don't really know about anything about pinball, so I can't really, other than distract from the conversation, I can't really add to it. I think the last time, it's not that we don't have them, like our downtown core had a couple of stops for it, but the last time I had my hands on like an arcade, it was on a Princess Cruise Line, and I think they kind of abandoned me there a little bit because it was the one way to daycare me.
Yeah. Go in the arcade. Have fun.
It was so boring. God, I was like, you could put me on the deck, it'd be better than this.
Nah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I spent so much time in arcades when I was a kid.
Dude, I remember the arcade at Six Flags, and that's where I first played Virtual Fighter with it was the
I was totally
first...
totally expecting you to say Food Fight.
No. I have not played an arcade Food Fight. The only Food Fight I played was on the 7800 Atari. So that's why it is such a... I really want to play a trackball authentic Food Fight. That is the dream for Adam. Only because that's, it's kind of like the, hey, what's the first game you remember when you were, growing up? Yeah, it's Food Fight. Yeah, that's mine. But I was gonna say, I remember going to an arcade at Six Flags. I don't know if have you been there, TUES, Six Flags over in Chicago area?
I've been to Six Flags, but only I think like once or twice. You gotta remember, man, I grew up in Ohio, so I went to Kings Island down in Cincinnati. But yeah, like I said, I've been to Six Flags a couple times, but I don't remember any arcades there, or going to any of the arcades there.
Well, I only said it because I know you're recently moved over to this area, so.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I remember going to a arcade in Six Flags, and they had a earlier version of Virtual Fighter where it had oh shit, what's his name? I think his name is Sheba, but he was like an Arabian fighter dude.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I could be wrong. I'm not looking at anything up right now, but if you look it up, Yeah, early versions of Virtua Fighter, there was a dude with like a turban and a scimitar, and his name was Shiba. At least I think. And yeah, like fucking dude, I love arcade. I love the danky dark. All of a sudden, there's like all these like CRT screens just. Yeah.
Okay, so a couple things, Adam. Food Fight didn't have a trackball. It had a joystick instead.
The first ones did.
The only one I'm seeing is the original Atari Food Fight from the 70s, and it's got a single arcade stick. But I found a website that sells vintage arcade machines, and they have Food Fight for $5,000.
Oh shit! Only 5,000.
Only 5,000. There you go. I put the link in stream time for you.
In hindsight, I do have to correct myself. There are other forms of arcades. Technically, the places with the animatronic shit, sometimes those places have arcades too. So we had
like the Chuck E. Cheese's, the Showbiz Pizzas, those things. Yeah.
Yeah, we used to be really, really Canadian with ours because we had a Bowinkle and Rockies. And... They're still scary. It doesn't matter what you make them look like. They're still creepy as fuck.
Well, of course.
But when they catch on fire, it's always just like everyone's just like in awe.
I was gonna say
My brother.
The big resurgence for people who remember Showbiz Pizza came about, and there's that whole documentary, The Rock-afire Explosion. And there's one guy who's a private collector actually has a full set of the animatronics from Showbiz Pizza. And the stage and everything has the Rock-afire explosion and all that, and he has them playing modern songs. So you got like the little band with Billy Bob Bear with his banjo singing all the single ladies. It's really funny.
That's great. Oh, that's great. Yeah, those were great places. I mean, they were scary as hell, and yeah, those animatronics could be pretty dangerous. It was more than just a few that caught fire. But at the same time, every kid who ever watched one, because my brother saw it, like he always kind of remembers watching it in awe, because it's just between being freaky and like interesting.
Yeah, well, they're uncanny valley.
Yeah.
You look at it, and your fight and flight instinct just kind of kicks in. And you're not sure why. So.
But at the same time, you're half wanting to laugh at the damn thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that was the problem. Like I can't remember what his thing was. If it was if it was a daycare thing or if it was a birthday thing. But getting the kids to leave was a problem because they all just wanted to sit and stare at it. Yeah, those were good times.
I was always the kid though that whenever there were any birthday parties I was either invited to or I had at any of those places. Which, to my knowledge, I only ever remember having one birthday party at a Showbiz Pizza, and then I was too old for things like Chuck E. Cheese after Chuck E. Cheese bought Showbiz Pizza. Which is funny too, because like you would think that Chuck E. Cheese is actually, going under because of the pandemic, and I think that they were ready to file for Section 10, it's Section 10, isn't it? It's bankruptcy.
Yeah.
But they got bailed out at the last minute, and it's funny because now they have a whole different thing going on for advertising for Chuck E. Cheese's. Now they have a Chuck E. Cheese Twitch channel where it's like VTuber style, kind of, where they'll have a little puppet Chuck E. Cheese sitting in the corner while he's playing things like, Fall Guys or like Among Us or something like that. But it's so funny because there was one stream, and they talk about it on Oni Plays. They talked about it on Oni Plays, and I went and looked it up, and it's hilarious. I highly recommend everyone go and look it up on YouTube and see this. But it's Chuck E. Cheese, but I guess someone in the chat asked him to say poggers, but I think that the person who was running the account didn't know what it meant, but everyone in the chat was so insistent on him saying poggers that the puppet just all of a sudden stops, looks into the camera, and just goes, poggers! And then, like, weeps a little bit, like whimpers. And it's one of the funniest things I think I've ever seen in my life.
Oh dear. Oh boy.
You know, no shade on Chucky, but you know, I don't know what poggers is, but I'm not gonna say it.
It took me a
no,
long...
I don't want to know.
It took me a long time to learn it, Adam. It's really dumb what it means. It just means play of the game. That's literally what it means. POG, play of game.
Oh well, if that's what it means, because I had a whole entirely different thing. I was like, Jesus, I don't. If that's what it means, I don't want to know what it means.
Well, it's just a cringy saying. Like, anyone who legitimately uses that word, you can tell instantly the kind of person you're dealing with.
You gotta always be suspicious of those characters who used
of those poggers, huh? You gotta be suspicious of those poggers. Adam, are you racist?
Oh, that's good. I mean, if he'd slurred his words and put an E in there instead, that would have been something else entirely.
I'll say this, man. Speaking of racism, I loved today finding out on Twitter that there was that one journalist that got let go from his job because he said, and I quote, "The world needs another Hitler," in response to all the stuff going on in the Middle East. Now, here's the thing, right? Many people in the Minions of the Zoo will have different ideas about what's going, or opinions about what's going on in the Middle East. I say there is no good winner, and because of that, I really kind of don't want to pick a side. The nation of Israel is really bad. They do a whole bunch of really terrible things, and then also the Palestine is also really bad and indefensible as well. So I refuse to choose between the two evils here. It's a no-win situation, and I refuse to play the game. But yeah, the one CNN journalist, he said that, and then he's all like, he got so angry on Twitter because he got fired. I'm like, okay, here's the thing, right? People are sitting there talking about free speech. Like, is this free speech? Is that free speech? That's absolutely free speech. You know why? You weren't arrested. You are not incarcerated because you said that horrible thing about the world needs another Hitler. You are not under arrest for that. What we have right now is social consequence because of that. And then I also made a backhanded jab at all the people that are trying to say that people who play Warhammer are fascists. Because fuck you people. If you can't identify a real fascist, someone who's saying we need another Hitler, versus someone who just wants to play plastic soldier men, then you need a lobotomy because you are worthless at that point. Fuck you. Go fuck yourself. I don't give a shit about your opinion anymore. These people trying to claim that Warhammer and the people who play Warhammer are fascist can go fuck themselves.
Yeah, honestly, it's almost like they could do some research on their neighbors up top and be like, oh yeah, they had this whole thing they were trying to push called the C10. You know, where yeah, I could get her at. Well, no, I'd have to put Canadian in everything. Could you imagine every time we'd come to visit you, we'd have to plaster you with Canadian shit everywhere?
No, we kind of do already, guys. I mean, come on. How many celebrities do we have around here that are fucking Canadian? God.
But have you heard any of this
about a poutine?
French?
Oh my goodness.
What?
You know, I torment Sam with that on the regular. Every once in a while, I will be like, so Sam, do you know what French is like in Alberta? Like, what? And I'm like, Sacre bleu! And then I told him about how porn is done in Alberta too, because we're really shit at French. There's a thing, we're just really shit at it. But if you make us insert French, we're gonna do it. So like, you know, Louis, oui. Poor Sam.
Oh man.
Le ho ho
I think there's a joke about slow porn like molasses, but I just can't get to it. So
Parlez-vous no speak French? Yeah.
Je suis d'aujourd'hui.
Non. If poor Sam is listening to this, I'm sorry. I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart.
We don't care, Sam. We love you anyway, even if your language is dumb and weird.
That's okay. I once introduced him from my friend from Quebec, and they exchanged words in French, and actually they did okay. Like, you know, they didn't have too many struggles with it. But
Well,
then we
it's just
started
like a
spamming.
different dialect, right?
It's not entirely different. It's more of just that it's really, really old. Like, the words are similar. It's just the way that they're spoken is very different. Like, Quebec uses more cheek and tongue in their pronunciation, whereas with Paris French, it's more with the diaphragm when they talk.
Okay.
So
well, hold on. This is recently I was watching Skillogram. If Sanguine was here, he'd know who I was talking about. But Quiz, do you know Skillogram?
No, I have no idea who that is.
I might not even be it might not be Skillogram. But he's a dude who uses posts a bunch of YouTube videos on medieval and ancient
Weaponry and stuff?
yeah.
Okay.
And recently he did a one on based off barbarians, and talking about the Latin, and what he says, you know, he says he's from southern Sicily, and so there's a difference between the dialect of northern Italy and southern Italy or Sicily, in terms of how they pronounce classic Latin, and that was one of the things where he was saying like northern Italians might be more comfortable. What did he say? I apologize. I'm you know, I'm you know, wasn't prepared.
well, there's some relevance to it with Quebec French too, if you're kind of going there, because like the thing is Quebec French. I mean, the thing is, it's really spattered with English, so you know it's very watered down too. But their French, if you really think about where it came from, it's closer in relationship to what French was before Paris had their revolution. Which is why there's certain places in northern France where they really dislike when you speak Quebec French.
Yeah, because he said there was like a I want to say classical, but and like what they use now, like, and one of the like I guess like a pinpoint we could say like a dom or domme, and it's how you pronounce and how you elongate the
Accent?
how you elongate, yeah, it's well, the pronunciation, I guess you could simplify it, but it's I don't know, like I said, I'm always fascinated by language and the differences by it. But
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
no, that sparked inspiration in terms of what you're talking about, the French express.
Yeah, but it's coming from an Italian.
Whoa.
I know there's always been kind of a little bit of a difference in the pronunciation, but like I said, it's also been spattered with English too, so there's that. I'm just really shit at it. But if I have to do it in my province, and they're not going to send us teachers who are really valid at teaching, and I'm not going to put in an effort, because I know they're not going to put in effort, then the porn's going to be really special. I did throw out this idea at Sam about the fact that my province is well known for dinosaur bones, so then I was like, Louis with dinosaur bones.
Yeah.
You guys had dinosaur bones?
Yeah, we got it. We got a pretty good deposit. It goes from us to you.
Ha 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 ha. I say just more of taking Jen out of context in a lewd sort of way.
It works.
I mean, you walk right into it, Jen. Come on.
It worked. It worked. Oh God. Yeah, there was other suggestions that I had to throw at Sam too, because like we're also home of the Stampede, which is also relatively raunchy. I'm like, yeah, Louis.
Jeez, come on, dinosaurs, stampedes. Do they move in hordes or
Flocks?
Flocks?
Yeah, because they're birds.
Oh shit, yeah, they got feathers now.
Yeah. Some of them do, some of them don't. We have a large deposit. But they kind of had a like they kind of tended to do that. Like they kind of tended to go from us to you in terms of where they migrated to. So, yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I was obsessed with dinosaurs when I was a kid. It was just one of those things where, like, if you went down to the dinosaur park and walked around, there was a good chance you could find something that was a dinosaur bone. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
I say it was normally like a little boy thing, but you know, way to subvert gender norms there, Jen.
Hey, listen, I was fully happy with things that were like, A, dinosaurs are kind of cool, and B, it's basically a treasure hunt.
Well, who doesn't love dinosaurs? I mean, that wasn't an indictment on you. It's an indictment on society. Little girls want to like dinosaurs. Let them like dinosaurs.
Listen, at my age, I was at the age where feminism believed that let just children decide what they want to play with. Don't let gender be the issue. And now, if I were the little girl looking at the dinosaur bones, they'd think I was a boy, and I'm like, that's disgusting.
Yeah, and want to transition you into being a boy.
Now that, you know, if later on down the road I was questioning stuff, yeah, sure, let me see professionals and look into it proper, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I feel like all the people who are really professionals on this are really just a bunch of sexist assholes. And it's like, you are the reason why the aliens don't want to talk to us. Well, you're part of the reason. I mean, that's not the only reason, it's just part of the reason.
I personally think that like all of those people who use children to push their agenda on stuff like that are sick in a way that there's no real way to help them out of it, because they're using ideology and pushing it on their child in the most literal sort of sense at that point. I have no problem against people who are trans, but let them discover that shit on their own. Don't force that shit on their kid because you observe, you know, this sorts of stuff. Need I go back to that one famous example of the one boy who was born a hermaphrodite, and the mother had him when he was an infant undergo gender reassignment surgery to remove his intersex organs and try to raise him as a girl, and he always didn't feel like a girl, and then learned that fact about himself and what his mother did to him, and then he killed himself.
Yeah.
That just means that these parents who go off on these sorts of things about gender and gender roles and whatever this sorts of stuff are just pushing a dangerous sort of "you must think the way that I do" on their kids, to the kids' detriment.
It's not just that, it's just that some of them seem to come across as those who are vindictive. And I'll just say, like, because a lot of what the left does is they like to point fingers and be like,
okay, hold on, I gotta stop you right here.
Yeah.
The left, don't get into the same trap. I give Jack Gunsky shit on this all the time. I'm part of the left, and I don't think this way.
Okay. The crazy parts of the you're over the Stalin line.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a little bit okay? I feel like with them, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them went the atheist route because Christians, some of the worst of the Christian route, kind of did that kind of stuff.
Well, I keep on bringing up the fact that there's far too many atheists right now that are angry ex-boyfriend, angry ex-girlfriend atheists. It's not that they have any sort of like philosophical leaning towards atheism or any of that sort of stuff. They haven't given the whole topic a critical thought. Instead, they just hate the fact that their parents told them to go to church when they were little.
Yeah. But I'm talking about the kids whose parents used to like kick them out and shit like that, or like try to force their views on their kids, or like these are extreme cases, like these are
and
like
fringe, not as common as these people would like for it to seem.
Especially not nowadays. Like that's more of like you're looking at the 80s. Leading into maybe the early 90s. Like by I'd say by the time I was a teenager, there were certainly kids coming out, and that's not to say they weren't getting harassed, but here's the thing, everybody in school was getting harassed.
Yeah.
At best they had to watch out for rumors because there was stuff like that. Like, and I was good with people who were gay at the time anyway. Like it was just as long as you didn't make me feel uncomfortable, I didn't give a shit. That's basically the general rule of everything I've learned. As long as you're not going out of your way to deliberately make me feel uncomfortable, which is the thing. I've been hit on by lesbians before who don't understand that no means no. It doesn't happen very often. It really doesn't. It's rare.
Well, given the rates of abuse among lesbians, I would figure that it would be fairly high, actually, but...
Don't hang out. I don't go to bars. I did do a lot of shit. By default, I am the reason why. Listen, there's. I'm antisocial too, so I mean there's little factors in there, but I do remember stories of some kids having it hard with certain families. Like some people take that aspect of religion and go kooky with it.
Well, but you know what I think that actually is probably the case a lot more often with a lot of these people. It's not the fact that they're doing it at all. Mm-hmm. They did not grow up in a family that shunned them for being gay or any of that kind of stuff. It's the fact that they heard about other people having to go through that, and they want to identify with that and say that they've been going through this sort of stuff because it's something that other people had to go through it at some point in their lives. They had to go through that discrimination. And even though they have never gone through it, they can utilize the cultural perception of the people that had to go through that perception, go through that hardship, and claim it as their own because they are that thing. And that's disgusting in my opinion. It's disgusting.
And that's the thing. The thing I'm afraid of is it's those very same people who are doing that to their kids. And it's just like, listen, the extremes that were coming from those families, were extreme, and they weren't in the right either. You know, there's many Christians even who looked at that and were like, okay, that's not like, I mean, we're not supposed to.
It's not okay.
We don't really,
Yeah.
you know, they don't really believe in necessarily being gay, but they don't necessarily believe in being cruel to other people. You know.
Yeah.
And it's yet again, it's like they don't want us to imply that Muslims are all terrorists, and I wouldn't do that either, because I think that's dishonest and it's not right.
Mm-hmm.
But they do it freely with any other group. They do it absolutely freely with any other group.
Well, there's the level of hypocrisy, and that's again the reason why I think that there's so much pushback against that kind of thing now. I feel like there is a cultural shift happening right now in America when it comes to the perception of social justice, and it's because of all the stuff that's coming out about these people who, you know, try to espouse social justice acting like anti-Semite Nazis simply because of Israel and their interactions with Palestine. A lot of people are going to be looking at that. Like, even people within the same sort of camp will probably, you know, reflect on that and then jump ship from believing in the cause of social justice. Especially when professors start getting involved with it and talking about how everyone should be on the side of Palestine and you know, all of the horrible things about Israel. And again, some of it actually is warranted. Israel is not a perfect place. Israel does do a whole lot of really bad things to Palestinians. But the Palestinians are not, you know, blameless in it either. So again, it's there is no good answer, but when you choose a side to condemn the other, then the worst part about it is the fact that you inherit all of the sins of the side that you have chosen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just I feel like it's the fact that we're doing it to our own kids here that just makes it sad. It's just like, you know, I don't want to let's be real. It's not that I want to abandon Palestine and Israel, but it's just I think it's the best thing that we can do, because at this point, every time we're involved, let's be real, there's probably just blood money being exchanged.
Well, you don't even have to get involved for that. There's so many charities that are funneling money to the Hamas. It's not even funny. And then of course there's also international aid that's going to Israel. So no matter what, money is being funded for these people to kill each other, even without overt military intervention or aid. The problem really comes down to the fact that the ideological aspect of it, the moral stance that you can take, you can't with good conscience say either side is the one to defend. Not really.
No, and that's just it. Like, and the more that we interfere and the more we give openings for the worst people to interfere, the worse it's getting for them.
Yeah. And you know, here's the thing, like, you know, the pros of Israel, I think also do kind of, you know, outweigh a little bit of the cons. Majorly, it's the fact that it's bringing a democratic republic to the Middle East, something that, you know, no other country does, and so on and so forth. But I don't think it should be at the expense of innocent Palestinians' lives, uprooting them simply because of who they are. That's in and of itself is also bigoted, and you can't say racist because it's not a race, but, you know, religionist. Is that a word?
It's also the fact that if they could just find some way to, and I know this is out to lunch, but like if there was some way that they could deal with Hamas, or at least the members of Hamas, instead of feeding into them, you know, the Palestinians could probably work with the Israelites a lot better. Like, it's not like they don't have Muslims living in their communities that do okay, you know, or do just fine. It's just because we're there's so many fingers in the extremist pie, you know, and I get it. It's like I don't want to move people either. It's just I'd rather give them a natural position where they could try to like help assimilate regular people, you know, and stop letting them, finding better ways to stop letting them get dragged into the Hamas gangs, you know, that kind of shit.
Well, and the other thing too is to, you know, not have the forceful relocation from the Israelis for those families, because that just further radicalizes them. It's a self-defeating process to do that.
Yeah.
And, you know, the whole, you know, getting everyone segregated in the two-state solution, I think is kind of a problem too. The only way that this situation I can see getting resolved in any sort of way is really with international intervention, coming in, occupying the country, and taking all of the Israelis and the Palestinians and say, if you don't play nice, you're not getting your country back.
Yeah.
But again, that's also really fascist. You can't just invade a country and say, look, get along or else. So you can't even do that. And that's the most logical option.
Yeah, this is just one of those ones where, you know, they might just have to hammer it out on their own.
Well, I mean, that's what I've been saying for a long time. That's my stance on it. It's, I personally can't pick a fight because both of them are pretty damn reprehensible. Really.
Yeah, at best that, yeah, that's where I've been standing for a long time anyway. Like, the more we interfere, the more we cause conflict, and the more we interfere, the more we're letting people on our side who really don't give a shit and are more than happy and get money off the backs of blown up children, you know?
Yeah.
And it's on both sides. They're both blowing up children. They both are.
Like, I'd say the one that really kind of got me the other day was, you know, they posted things about Israeli children that died, and that's horrible, you know, in Hamas attacks. It was really horrible. And then in the same breath, there was also another person that posted a thing about Israeli children signing bombs that were being sent into Lebanon. And like one of the children signed "From Israel with love" from Israel to Lebanon with love on a bomb.
I mean, it's horrible, but I'm still laughing like a little shit.
I just that is horrible. It is very, very bad. Yeah, and like, it's again the self-defeating cycle here.
Yeah.
The only winning move is to not play the game, but the problem is that those people that live there, by virtue of them living there, are playing the game.
I had to laugh a little bit at my prime minister for that. It's just the irony of the irony, because that guy...
Trudeau's the worst. He's an idiot. He doesn't realize that a lot of the stuff that he's trying to do as humanitarian aid are directly funding Hamas.
Well, that's just it. Like he was trying to imply that the people in Canada were going after Muslims and being anti-Semites, and I'm just like, sir, I will have you know, there are now 3 churches in my province who have been under siege by your RCMP, not just city police, because they've been bringing them in now, and they're like, we don't know why we need to be here for this. But our RCMP are doing it. And it's not just that. If you go to Montreal and Quebec, they are absolutely going after the Jewish community. Like, they, if they're seen after dark without a reasonable explanation, you know, they're just ticketing the shit out of them.
Oh,
and
really?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
The one that I know about that happened in Canada was in Montreal. A rabbi got beaten in the street.
He's not the only one. Like, they're absolutely targeting them.
No.
You know, people coming home from, like, maybe going out for a quick dinner or something, you know, coming home from work. If they're a little bit late, you know, you have to be outside with a dog. You have to have a valid reason for being out, or they just take the shit.
It's nuts too, because I mean the fact that they're targeting diasporan Jews just means that those people who are doing that have completely lost the plot. It's no longer about Palestine and Israel. If you're going after people who don't even live there, then I'm sorry, that all that says is that you hate Jews, and that is anti-Semitic by definition.
Like some of these people have been living here since after World War II. You know, like absolutely no connection. And it's disgusting to see it in my own homeland. Like, this is stuff that I never expected to see here. But I mean, it's not like it's not in our history books either. You know, it's not like we did turn away boats too.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things that we were reminded of our history. Like, yes, we took in some, but we turned away boats, and it's one of those things where we're reminded to feel ashamed of it. And here they are, like, treating our community like that. And it's like they have nothing to do with any of this. You know, they're just trying to live. I think there's other reasons for it too. Like, it's not just that they're anti-Semite. I think they're targeting them because, like, if they're stereotyping them. Well, they're Jewish. They want their money.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, that's definitely part of it. Yes.
You know, and yet again, it's disgusting. I don't approve of it, Canada. I'm just saying, as a Canadian citizen, I don't approve of it, and I know most of the people that I know don't.
It's not a hard stance to take. It really isn't. To just sit there and say, okay, people who are, you know, flying the Palestinian flag shouldn't be persecuted because they're flying the Palestinian flag. They have just as much of a valid complaint as Israelis do at this point. And the same people who are flying the Israeli flag shouldn't be persecuted because they're flying the Israeli flag. The problem comes in when those people themselves are crossing the line into violence with the other side. Then, yeah, especially like not even in Israel. Then we have problems. Let's say, because then it's not about geopolitics anymore. It's about, you know, violence in the streets in Canada and the United States. And that shit needs to end. That's something we can handle. Both sides need to be fucking locked up. When you are perpetrating, when you're beating a rabbi in the street, or when you're dragging a Palestinian Arab woman out into the street and beating her to death, or near to death. Because there was one in, I think it was in Montreal that it happened. A Palestinian dude was pulled out of his car and beaten unconscious.
Right, either. Yeah, you're not wrong. I wouldn't.
Yeah. Lock them both up.
You know, I've said that here before too, because it's not like, you know, our Jewish center's been attacked before. Like, you know, this is ages ago. This isn't new stuff. Like, you know, people painted swastikas on their walls. But then at the same time, they did that to the Muslim center, you know, and I was disgusted both times. I was just like, you know, these are just religious centers. Leave these people alone.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing. They've never harmed anyone. At a point when nobody has ever harmed me, I have no beef with you. And that's just how I was raised. That's how I was raised. I mean, my dad did tell me to watch out for religious cooks, and he did warn me about that with the Muslim community, but he didn't say that they were bad people. He just said that they have a little bit stronger things with the religion.
Yeah, everyone does. There's zealots in every religious sect and community. Period.
Yeah, like, I just don't want to put words in his mouth because, like, you know, I think he tried to word it as nicely as he could with me because I was young too, you know, but he's never really brought it up since because we don't really do that. We don't sit at home and discuss what other cultures do. At best, maybe it comes up on TV and maybe we talk about it a little bit. But it's kind of taboo to talk about what your neighbor's doing. That's actually my culture. You're not supposed to talk about what your neighbor's doing unless you think something's wrong. And if you think something's wrong, you leave them alone or you report it.
Yeah, it's not hard. It's not a hard principle.
It's just that's how I've always been. You know, the exception is when it's children. Like, when it's children, it's not about being nosy. It's just making sure they're okay.
Well, at the same time, I don't know. There's some people that are a little bit too zealous when it comes to that shit too.
There's that too.
My brother has had the police called on him several times by his one neighbor because they think that he's abusing his kids. and the police have come out, and you know, they investigate the situation. You know, they find out exactly what was going on. It was just like a spanking, but they were calling the police because my brother was spanking me. He was spanking his kids, right? And the cops got to the point where they actually went over to the neighbor's house and said, "Look, if you call us again about my brother, then we're coming here to arrest you."
So, you know, there's a difference about approach. Like if you're a little bit worried, there's really a difference about approach. It's like, I don't know if it's about approaching the parents themselves, or if it's just like you try to ask somebody around them if you think something's wrong. You know, just to try to, like, not necessarily directly the parents. I mean, I know it's not cool to necessarily talk to somebody's kids when their parents aren't around, but like even then I might try to find some way to be like, hey, you know, I'm just worried about you. It's probably none of my business. Your parents are probably fine, but are you okay? Because if you aren't, I don't mind making a phone call.
Well,
That's
the major difference too is the fact that you don't do that sort of thing. You don't blow the whistle on someone if you don't know all of the extenuating circumstances involved. Seeing something happen in isolation once that you think is maybe too extreme but still doesn't violate any sort of laws just means that you're calling, you know, you're crying wolf at that point. And doing that repeatedly makes you the problem, not the person you're trying to blow the whistle on. And it all comes down to the fact that the neighbors never talk to my brother ever.
Like things that I've seen people do with their kids when they so technically this was spousal a little bit between split up parents too. And some of these are stories I've also seen online as well. But it's just like trying to find out ways to figure out where your kids are getting the bruises from without outright accusing somebody. And it's just like, you know, comparing.
Well, it's funny,
you know, like
you say that, but
nobody's saying about bruises.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the thing. My
No,
brother
no,
never
no, no.
bruised his kids.
I'm not talking about your brother. I'm not talking about your brother. I'm
Hold
talking
on.
about cases where
This is some like. Ooh.
No, I wasn't
You wouldn't understand if you got a chancla.
Yeah.
Across your fucking head. You know? Like there was punishment for bad behavior, and it wasn't something that it was like, holy shit, you're beating your kids. Like, nah, dude, you stuck a fork in the electric socket and you got shocked. Holy shit, you know the reaction.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah, I get that there's oh shit. You know,
I wasn't meaning to infer that was your brother I was talking about. I was just saying in cases where, like, you know, there was suspicion, you know, and like how do you go about doing it without outright accusing someone, you know, because it could just be an accident. Kids do bruise themselves. Sometimes they play on the park and they fall down, and it's just, you don't necessarily want to just accuse somebody, but it's like I think they explained it as like if you can. Because you can't just look it up either, you know? Because that's the problem. People try to look up their symptoms online and then they end up paranoid with shit, you know?
Yeah.
So things that I'd heard people say that they did was they would go to their own doctors and just be like, listen, I don't want to start things, but these were things that I saw on this kid. You know, is this something that could be possibly caused by something natural? You know? And it's just, how else are you supposed to do it, you know, in a professional setting without starting shit, you know?
Well, again, the major problem is that when a lot of this sort of stuff happens, a lot of people are just not minding their own business or wanting to feel morally superior by calling out people for doing something wrong when there was no wrongdoing to begin with.
Yeah. See, I wouldn't be able to do that without having a more personal relationship with that kid. So this is more of like people who do and then don't call it out.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing that we all, I mean, anyone who has kids probably knows that, you know, because it's not just parents that you gotta be worried about, it's other people too. You know, like it could be a babysitter, it could be Uncle Joe for all you know. but that's just it. It's like how do you figure that stuff out without right and being nosy too, you know, because you didn't see anything. If I didn't see anything, I'm not going to say anything. But if it's reoccurring and it looks suspicious, I don't know. I might ask somebody else for advice. Like, it's not necessarily my business, but this kid always has these same bruises all over the place, you know?
I don't know. That's the reason why I don't interact with a whole lot of people, especially people with kids. I've got a couple of friends who have kids, but at the same time, they're too busy being parents, and I'm not going to tell them how to be their parent, and I'm not going to tell them how to live their life, and that's all well. It's all well and good, man. I don't know, man. Like I said, there's far too many nosy ass people that are trying to make themselves seem like the hero when they're really just being the villain.
The problem. They are absolutely part of the problem, and that's the thing. I do side with you on that regard too, because the thing is when they do that, they distract from cases that are actually real. You know, and it actually makes it a lot harder for people to confirm stuff, like, because you don't want to be suspicious, like, you know, but there's some people who just want to be suspicious. They want to be the person to catch you doing shit, you know? And that's the problem. It's the fear of catching the guy who's going to actually do something terrible, you know? And I've never reported anyone or snitched on anyone or thought anyone, because I've never known anyone to do something like that, you know? I've only had cases of people after the fact, you know? Sometimes it was the man, you know, it was the most of the time it came from spousals, you know? Split up relationships that I heard most stories. And anything past that was really from the 80s. Like, the worst stories that I heard were like murder stories.
Well, yeah, I think that's another thing too, is that a lot of people, you know, it's the whole you're the hero of your story sort of situation. They watch documentaries, they watch the unsolved mysteries, and they sit there and say, well, what would I do in that situation? So then they go around looking for that situation where it doesn't exist.
Yeah, but those situations, there were so many people involved. That's not like a one person didn't catch it. That was like a lot of people didn't catch it. You know, most of the ones that I've watched, like, I wouldn't. That's exactly why I wouldn't want to jump to that conclusion. You know, I would probably, if I was ever, because I wouldn't jump to that conclusion right away. You know, it's like people who are with their daughters in public and people just assume they're kidnapping someone. Like, I wouldn't just automatically assume that, you know?
That only happens when it's a man, but okay, anyway.
Oh, well, you know, like, here's the thing. I had daycare guys, you know, I had plenty of daycare guys, you know, I'd be horrified to think of them trying to do that nowadays, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and it's sad. Like, I don't think that way like, I still don't even think that way automatically. You know, I'm just saying on extreme cases where, like, you know, where and this is the thing, like, I'm talking about, like, you know, someone was at daycare or someone was going to school, or they were at the nurse, or, you know, doctors usually know, or at least they can kind of suspect something, but they need a couple of visits before they can really pinpoint that kind of shit, you know?
You need to show that it's a pattern or any of that kind of stuff. I don't know. Again, for that whole sort of thing, I think that the problem is much, much more complicated than you sitting there being a nosy ass neighbor, sitting, you know, looking out at an isolated situation and thinking, oh my God, they're, you know, horrible, horrible abusers. If you are that sort of person, that sort of nosy neighbor, then you are the worst kind of person in the world.
Nope. You know, listen, my neighbors had and thank God their son is older now, but when they first moved in, he would just cry non-stop. But here's the thing, I could tell that it wasn't a cry of pain, and to be quite frank, I was like, your kid is manipulating you. I can tell. And they're like, we can too. He won't stop.
Terrible twos.
Terrible twos. I could tell. You know, but there's some people who would just hear that and just think, oh, they must be abusing their kid again. I'm like, no, of course they're not. No, I could tell his age. I could tell he's having little mental breakdowns. Like, he has little fits over his toys all the time. You know, sometimes his dad plays a little prank by closing the door on him before he goes in, and he lost his mind every single time. It was just, I knew what he was doing, you know. But I know what you mean. There are some people who just jump to the automatic worst situation. Like I said, I've never encountered a kid who'd been abused either, you know, and that makes a difference too. You know, I think I'm the last person to go out and make accusations. I think the people who suspect stuff like that are usually also people who have encountered it or they've dealt with people who've had situations, you know.
Man, okay, I'm getting to this point in my life too where I am so jaded when it comes to people sitting there talking about their personal or lived experiences with this kind of stuff, because 99.9% of the time I listen to those stories and I just think to myself, you're lying. Because all of those stories are played up to such a dramatic edge that they're completely unbelievable. I mean, it may be callous of me to say stuff like that, but 99.9% of the time when I see someone, especially so callously, bring up abuse that they've suffered, I don't believe them. I just don't. Especially if they're so flippant about it. Like, there was one person I talked to once that she brought up something or other, and she was the one that initiated the conversation about rape. And she's like, well, I was raped. No, I don't believe you. You don't go through something like that and have that reaction. Especially when it does nothing but gain you social points in what you're, you know, in the circle in which you are interacting at that point. Call me callous, whatever, but a lot of these people that are bringing up these sorts of things, I just don't believe them anymore. My experience has gone so far that the lie for instant gratification is too prevalent amongst these people that they use it as a social power grab. So
I get that.
Yeah, these horror stories, I don't believe them anymore.
I get that, but you're talking to somebody who was in program, so I'm talking about people that like actually were abused.
I'm just saying, man.
Like, I know what you mean. You know, it's one of those things where, like, I have a struggle with that with online people. I absolutely have a struggle with that with online people because they are absolutely flippant about it. You know, you see people on streams and sometimes you talk to people on Discords and you can kind of tell when somebody's really had something. Like, you know, there's always like there's enough emotion or there's enough pauses or there's enough moments where they're just like, I really don't want to think about this, but you know, the conversations.
I find that a lot of times when it's believable, they don't even want to bring it up, or they don't want to, you know, like, again, my whole thing is the experience that I've had with so many people, and I'm not talking about just online. I'm talking about in real life. You know, when I was in college and all of the people I've met since then, interacting with people, you know, whether at work or whether, you know, all these other kinds of places, there is a disturbing trend amongst people that use something like personal trauma in these sorts of ways as a social power grab and bring it up so casually and flippantly that at that point, I don't believe you.
No, I get that. I get that too. Like, I get that that opinion. Well, I mean, the problem is like that kind of stuff. Like always, it makes it harder for well, it makes it harder for
real victims to come forward. Yes, it does.
To come forward and deal with the problems, or like actually just dealing with problems.
And that's the most disgusting thing, in my opinion, is the fact that these people, in an effort to do these sorts of things, invent these sorts of things, or blow the situation that they've gone through, and invented this sort of fiction surrounding the things that actually happened, that they are doing a disservice to the people who actually go through it. And the worst part about it is that it's in an effort to be more supportive of those people who've done those sorts of things, or like that sort of thing. So it's coming from a good place, but at the same time you're doing something horrible. And when you do something horrible for a good reason, so the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
So when that sort of thing happens, the worst part about it is that when I see people act like that, act so casually, act so flippantly about these sorts of, horrific subjects, the only thing that I can sit here and think of is that they are doing a massive disservice to the people who've actually gone through that.
Makes me wonder where they're getting it from too, because there's stuff that I admit I delve into the dark side of YouTube every once in a while, because I do like the odd murder mystery, but I didn't expect this from the one that I went through, because it wasn't even a murder mystery. It was just, where are these actors now?
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't thinking anything of it. And I can't remember her name. I have to go look it up again, because she was in a couple of things. But you remember the movie All Dogs Go to Heaven?
Sure. I have that on DVD.
Yeah, well, the girl who played the voice actor for the girl,
mm-hmm.
she died like within a year.
Yeah, as a kid too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I mean, that
was
sad. Like that was a lot of stuff. Like that was a whole lot of stuff. And I think it's like things like that. You see it coming out of Hollywood,
mm-hmm.
and you see a lot of this stuff being pushed out of Hollywood. And don't get me wrong, you're not wrong with the drama kids, because those have always been, like, the drama people have always been there.
Mm-hmm.
The ones who live off of feeding off of drama and people's charity if they bring up drama.
And sympathies.
But when I see things coming out of Hollywood, and I think about stories like that, and I'm like, I can't help thinking if it's not half them pushing their own shit,
Yeah, I can see that.
Because it's mixing in with normie shit, and normies are easily captivated by that kind of shit. They
mm-hmm.
dramatize it all, and it's just, I think about that poor little girl. I'm like, you guys are just, it just makes me hate the world more.
Well, I mean, the whole thing, the whole idea behind it is reprehensible, and the worst part about it is that the only sort of consequence that you can give these sort of person is just to not interact with them anymore, because you can't sit there and say you're lying. That's not gonna fly either. But at the same time, when you read body language and you kind of sit there and think about these sorts of things and how a traumatic event like that should affect someone, you want to give respect to them, but then when you immediately feel that respect is betrayed, it makes you a little callous. And I think that's where I'm at in my life, is that I've been so desensitized to that at this point in my life, I can't spare any grief for you, when those sorts of things happen, unless I can actually believe that those sorts of people have gone through that, and I can't anymore. I just can't.
Here's another one too, though. It's not just people who fabricate it. It's also people who are victims who then live the rest of their lives thinking that it's an excuse to attack everybody else.
Yeah. Oh God, yes. Oh God, yes. Like okay. The situation that immediately comes to mind with all of that are all of the women who flippantly bring up rape and, well, I was raped and sort of stuff like that, and use it to denigrate all men.
Yeah.
It's like, at this point, when you go to that extreme, that opposite end of the extreme, flippantly talking about it and then use it to attack another group of people just simply because they share an arbitrary characteristic, then you are just as bad as any racist in the world. You are, in fact, maybe even worse, because you're a liar on top of it.
Yeah. that. It's the way that when some men came out as also having been victims of rape, they just seem to attack them or dismiss them.
Oh, well, no, there is no attacking. They just straight up dismiss it. I mean, look at all the Republican fucking politicians that were the ones that spearheaded the idea that men cannot be raped. That rape is penetration.
You know, it was stuff like that sickened me. You know, because like, you know, even going back to Hollywood, a lot of those videos weren't just little girls. A lot of them were little boys.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
Well, no, the thing that sickens me is the fact that there's not even a shred given to the possibility that forceful envelopment can even be a thing. And that's bullshit. It absolutely is. And it absolutely is rape.
And even if there isn't forceful penetration or anything like that, just the fact that you've made somebody feel so much fear, that you've had so much control over them, a lot of what that is what a lot of rape is.
Oh yeah.
That really is a lot of what it is. So yeah, I do think that you can do that with men. Like, you know, it doesn't matter if they do have a biological reaction, they can't help it. You know, women technically do too. You know, you can still technically turn a woman on and still rape her. Like they've said that before multiple times.
Yes.
So why is that different when it's a man? You know,
it's not. But in the eyes of the law, as it's written, it is.
Yeah, I mean that's the irony of it. And I've often let me be real. I watched an interview with Johnny Depp when I was like maybe 14 with my mom, and I've never looked back. Because the stuff he said, and I know it's Johnny Depp, and I know this stuff happened with Johnny Depp, but I saw that with other guys in the same position as him. Like when he called himself Beefcake, I got what he meant, you know. And I've never really liked double standards since. I've never followed anyone that I liked, in all honesty. Like, there's people that I liked in movies that I still don't know the names of, just because I didn't like the idea of double standards. I took it to the extreme. I blame you, Johnny Depp.
I could see that with some of that, but I mean, with all the stuff that's happening with Johnny Depp right now, I blame Amber Heard more than him.
Oh, she's just basically confirmed for me why what I did was not wrong. You know, but even worse, like she didn't even do any. She doesn't seem. The more I learn about her, the more she seems to have known very little about the dude she decided to marry, except for that he was rich and popular.
I'm meaning the opposite way. There's so much stuff that's come out about her being an abuser. So much. Oh my god.
That I know. That's what I mean. I mean, that part I knew. I just mean like stuff that people were talking about her. Like she just thought he was like she just thought he was some old man, like some rich old man. Like when they were discussing her as a gold digger, basically. You know, because when she came up with all this stuff, like, he's never really been an abuser. Like in any situation that I remember of him in life, and I honestly tried my best to stay away from shit that would come up with him, unless it was stuff that he was in an interview talking about. But like I remember his relationship with Renoa, and Renoa, whatever. I remember his tattoo. I just remember him saying something about him getting rid of it and changing it to Weeping Renoa.
Oh. Is it Winona? Was it
Renoa? Yeah, Winona Ryder.
Oh,
yeah.
Winona Ryder. Okay.
Yeah, when they were dating. It's just one of those things in any relationship that he's had. If she'd gone after him for his drug abuse, I could understand that.
Sure.
Yeah, because that's something that he's actually been. But she's never once. It was one of those things where people had been like, well, why did she come up with this when she's the one who, in every relationship she's been in, she's been the abuser. That's why towards the end she tried to play it off that he was high when he did all this shit. I'm like, so why didn't he do that at any other point in his relationships? Because he's constantly had a drug problem. He's been in and out of rehab. Like, you know, he's never struck a woman at any time in between. You know, someone would have cropped up at some point and been like, hey, you know, free money.
Yeah, right. Well, especially living in the era of Me Too, yeah, it's definitely something to consider.
But here's the thing, Hollywood's kind of turned their back on her too. Like, I mean,
well, now they have.
Now they have, but
for a long time, everyone was on her in her corner talking about how Johnny Depp was the abuser.
Yeah.
And then it turned out that she perjured herself, and then all sorts of stuff like that about it. The police were called on her several occasions.
Yeah, it was interesting to see the Raven Simone clip that she did, where she caught Amber in the parking lot when she'd locked herself out of her car, and then convinced her to get out of her car and leave her phone inside of her car, and then lock herself out again. And that was kind of a little bit of a surprise, because she kind of did come across as like a mix between super liberal and I don't know. She used to be center to me. I used to think she was center. I don't follow TV very often, Quiz.
I don't either, because I find a lot of these people are pretty reprehensible people.
Yeah, well, they're boring, and their lives are kind of boring, and I'm just like, I don't know why.
Whoever put a whole hell of a lot of stock in someone who gets paid to lie? They're professional liars. That's what an actor is. So, at that point, I don't know, man. I've never really put much stock in these people's opinions or their lives, to be perfectly frank. I just don't care. But anyway, we've been going for a little bit here. It's after midnight, so I think it's about time we close up the zoo. We've been your minions of the zoo. Thank y'all for coming out and watching some paint dry. I hope this was a fairly decent discussion for everyone, and I didn't piss too many people off with my whole horrible hot takes about all of the things. But you know what? I've always said it before, and I'll say it again. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and you are not required to share mine, and I am not required to share yours. The only thing about it is that we don't need to fight about it. And thank y'all for coming out. I hope you had a good time. Be sure to watch tomorrow, where Skep Tock is the host. And yeah, the zoo is closed. Take care, everyone.
Say goodbye.
Goodbye, Jen.
Bye, guys.